guys, new setting. I know I'm here at the hotel in California, LA. But I'm not gonna miss out on this week's video of Grazy TV. So today's video is about the famous Itaewon murder case. Now this is one of the most famous cases in Korea involving foreigners. Till this day, we don't know who the real killer is. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna ask you guys who you think did it. Now this case is very complicated because it involves two suspects who used to be friends who are now pointing at each other saying that they are the killer. So this Itaewon case took place in April 3rd, 1997. So it's been 22 years. A 22-year-old Hongik University student Cho Jung-pil was stabbed to death at a Burger King in Itaewon. Now this Burger King used to be located in one of the famous four crossways in Itaewon. I believe the last time I was in Itaewon, Olive Young took over. So Burger King shut down after this incident. Two main suspects, Arthur Patterson, who was 17 back then, and Edward Lee. On the night of April 3rd, 1997, a group of friends, including Arthur Patterson and Edward Lee, were just chatting around, ordered some burgers. That's when Arthur Patterson took out his knife out of his pocket and started to cut his burger. Friends were talking about the knife, like, wow, it's so sharp, like, where'd you get the knife? So next, what happened was Patterson and Lee went to the bathroom where they made contact with the victim, Cho Jung-pil. Now the important thing is they did not know the victim, so it's not like they had any anger towards each other. This was a complete innocent victim. So what happened next? The victim was stabbed 9 times in the small bathroom, and unfortunately there was no CCTV back in 97, especially at this location. So the victim ended up dying due to the severe injuries. There was just so much blood. So a little bit light to shed on the victim. Apparently he was very hardworking. He grew up from a very poor family, and he ended up doing, multiple jobs in order to support himself and his family. So he was such a kind-hearted, hardworking person. Now let's go to the problems with the investigation. Apparently the investigators did not speak English, and the two suspects complained that they can't speak Korean. I guess it was a little bit hard to specifically get a translator for these murder cases. So there's two versions of the story. Patterson points a finger at Lee, saying that he was the killer. Lee points a finger at Patterson, saying his friend is the killer. Now throughout the investigation, unfortunately, the Burger King actually cleaned up the murder scene right the next day, so they only had pictures to go off of. According to the investigation, they first thought the killer had to be taller because the way the victim was stabbed, the angle of the knife had to be like in an upper position. Patterson actually is a lot shorter and a lot smaller than Lee, so the police had their suspicions on Edward Lee. So Patterson's version of the story, he says that after Lee stabbed the victim fell on top of Patterson, hence the reason why he says he had so much blood all over his body, and he pushed the victim to the left side of the bathroom. However, did not explain why there was so much blood in the sink area, because if Patterson was right in front of the sink, why is there so much blood in the sink? Lee claims that he was just washing his hands, looked up at the mirror, and all of a sudden Patterson was stabbing the victim randomly, out of nowhere. Lee claims that he was trying to protect his friend, and he was such in a shock that is one of the reasons why he got rid of the murder weapon. And actually both of them took a lie detector test. Patterson passed the test and Lee did not, and that is also one of the reasons why the police thought Edward Lee could have been the real killer. But you guys know that lie detector tests are not as accurate as we would like it to be, and it cannot be used as evidence in court. According to the friend testimonies, apparently these kids decided to kill because it was for fun. They wanted to take away a human's life for fun, to show off, to show that they're cool. I mean, this is just unbelievable, right? So after all the investigation, Lee was originally convicted of murder. I think he was put in about 20 years in jail, and Patterson had been sentenced to 1.5 years in prison and was serving that sentence when he was given a special pardon on April 15, 1998, and was released from prison. He fled the country, taking advantage of the prosecutor's failure to extend his travel ban. Lee was originally charged with murder, but later was acquitted by the Supreme Court due to insufficient evidence. So after Patterson fled the country and Lee was acquitted for murder, the victim's family was so devastated because they at least had one murderer and they both were released, and now we have no one that's responsible for the victim's death. So in 2009, there was actually a movie made, The Case of Itaewon Homicide. So after the movie he was released, the case actually re-attracted the media, and due to public demand, the police had to re-investigate and reopen this cold case. So after the movie, the family actually sued Patterson as the original murderer. So there was actually an arrest warrant out for Patterson. He was apparently living somewhere in California in the United States, and after he was arrested, he was actually extradited to Korea. So after another re-investigation by the South Korean prosecutors, they concluded that Patterson was the original killer and Lee instructed the murder. Also, they found some new DNA evidence that pointed Patterson as the killer. Also, going back to Patterson's statement all the way back in 1997, his side of the story actually did not match up and Lee was telling the truth, which is so weird because back in 1997, they both took a lie detector test. So like I told you guys, the court actually concluded that Lee was Patterson's accomplice who encouraged Patterson to kill, but Lee was not prosecuted according to the non bis in idem legal principle, which states that the same crime cannot be prosecuted twice. So you guys remember Edward Lee was first prosecuted 20 years in jail because he was the original killer, but he was acquitted, and apparently according to the Korean law, you cannot be tried twice for the same crime. So that is one of the reasons why Edward Lee was never charged ever again. So in September 2015, Patterson was arrested and put into 20 years in jail. Following the trial, the defense revealed that they will appeal the sentence, explaining that when they consider the bloodstains left at the scene of the crime, Edward Lee appears to be the real criminal. So you guys see how complicated this case is because no one is actually admitting the truth and they're still till this day pointing the blame at each other. So I am so torn between this. I actually believe that both were accomplices, so I do 100% believe that they both are at fault at this, but who was the real killer? So I want you guys to leave a comment down below who you think the real killer is based on the evidence and everything that is given today. Alright guys, see you guys next time. Bye!